The morning started with Marcus standing in my bedroom doorway, his arms crossed like he owned the place, which according to him, he now did. Jennifer, the movers arrive in 2 hours. I need you out before noon. I looked up from my coffee, sitting at the small desk where I'd spent countless mornings watching the sunrise over Lake Michigan. The penthouse had floor-to-ceiling windows that made the entire city feel like it belonged to you. 23 floors up, overlooking the water, with enough space that you could forget anyone else existed. The foreclosure notice said I had 30 days, I said quietly. Marcus laughed, that sharp bark he'd developed since marrying my mother. That was before I talked to the bank. Turns out when you're willing to settle the debt immediately, they're very accommodating. The property transfers today. Mom agreed to this. Your mother is in Italy with my daughters, having the vacation she deserves after years of supporting a stepdaughter who couldn't even hold down a decent job. He checked his watch, an expensive Rolex he'd bought himself for their first anniversary. She signed the papers remotely yesterday. Very convenient, modern technology. I sipped my coffee, feeling the warmth spread through my chest. Outside, a sailboat drifted across the lake, its white sail bright against the blue water. I see. Do you? Marcus stepped into the room, his presence filling the space like toxic gas. Because for 5 years, I've watched you live in this place rent-free. No job, no ambition, just coasting on whatever money your father left before he died. Well, that's over now. My real children need this space. There it was. Real children. As if the 11 years I'd spent as part of this family meant nothing. Brittany is starting at Northwestern in the fall, Marcus continued. She needs a place close to campus. And Madison's moving back from New York. Her startup didn't work out, but that's what happens when you actually try things instead of hiding in a penthouse pretending to be something you're not. I understand, I said. Marcus's eyes narrowed. He'd been spoiling for a fight, I could tell. My calm responses always threw him off balance. The movers will pack your things. I'm being generous. You can take your personal items, clothes, whatever, but the furniture stays, the art stays, everything of value stays. Of course. Jesus, Jennifer, don't you have any pride, any fight in you at all? He turned toward the door, then stopped. Your mother and I discussed it. You can stay in the corporate apartment in Schaumburg for 60 days. After that, you're on your own. Time to grow up. The corporate apartment was a 1-bedroom box in a complex 40 miles from downtown. My mother had mentioned it once. Marcus's company kept it for visiting executives and clients who didn't rate a hotel. That's very kind. Marcus made a disgusted sound and left. I heard his footsteps echo through the penthouse, then the front door slam. I finished my coffee slowly, watching the sailboat complete its turn and head back toward the harbor. My phone sat on the desk, dark and silent. I picked it up, scrolled through my contacts, then set it back down. Not yet. The movers arrived at exactly 10 o'clock. Professional, efficient, wearing matching uniforms with Premier Moving Services, embroidered on the chest. The kind of company that charged premium rates and didn't ask questions. The crew chief, a man named Tom with gray at his temples, knocked on my bedroom door. Miss, we're going to start in the living room, work our way through. Mr. Harris said, you're only taking personal belongings. That's correct. We'll set those aside. Everything else gets loaded. I'd already packed my clothes into 2 suitcases and a duffel bag. 28 years of life reduced to 3 pieces of luggage. It should have felt tragic, but I just felt tired. Tom's crew moved through the penthouse like locusts. The Italian leather sofa, my mother had spent 3 months selecting. The dining table that sat 12, imported from Denmark. The Chihuly glass sculpture in the entryway that cost more than most people's cars. I sat on my suitcases in the hallway, watching them work. Marcus returned around 11:30, bringing Brittany and Madison with him. His daughters had their mother's thin frame and sharp features, though they'd inherited Marcus's aggressive energy. Oh my God, this place is amazing. Brittany squealed, running to the windows. Dad, you can see everything from up here. Madison walked through more slowly, appraising. The decor needs work, very 2010s. We'll need to completely redo it. Whatever you want, sweetheart. Marcus said, this is your space now. Brittany turned, noticing me for the first time. Oh, you're still here? The movers aren't finished, I said. Well, try not to take anything that isn't yours. She laughed, linking arms with her sister. Dad told us about the foreclosure. It must be so embarrassing, losing everything. Marcus stood behind them, his hands on their shoulders, the picture of a proud father. His eyes met mine with pure triumph. Girls, why don't you pick out your bedrooms? The master suite is yours. Brittany, since you're staying full-time. Madison, you can have the guest suite or the study. We'll convert whichever you prefer. They disappeared down the hallway, their excited chatter echoing off the walls. Marcus approached me, lowering his voice. I want you gone before they finish measuring for new furniture. My interior designer arrives at 1. Of course. You know what your problem is, Jennifer. No fight, no ambition. Your father spoiled you, and your mother enabled it. Well, real world doesn't work that way. He pulled out his phone, checking something. The Schomburg apartment key is with building security. Code is 4782. Don't lose it. There's a $200 replacement fee. Tom emerged from the master bedroom, consulting his tablet. Mr. Harris, we need clarification on the bedroom furniture. The bed frame is custom built into the wall structure. We can't remove it without damage to the unit. Leave it, Marcus said. We're replacing everything anyway. Understood. We're about 60% complete. Should have the truck loaded within 90 minutes. Marcus checked his watch. Excellent. Jennifer, I need you out of the building before the designer arrives. Take your things down to the lobby. I stood, gripping the handle of my largest suitcase. The leather was worn where my fingers always held it, a familiar texture that grounded me. Actually, Marcus said, a new thought occurring to him. The building requires a formal checkout. Surrender your key fob, parking pass, gym access card, everything. I reached into my bag, pulled out the items, and placed them in his outstretched hand. Parking pass too, he said. I know you have a spot in the underground garage. I handed over the plastic card. Marcus examined each item like he was checking for forgeries, then pocketed them. The building manager needs to note the transfer. We should go down together. Make it official. We rode the elevator in silence. The descent from the 23rd floor took 37 seconds. I'd timed it once, during the first week after my father died, when I couldn't sleep and spent hours just riding up and down. The lobby was all marble and glass, designed to impress. A massive floral arrangement sat on the central table, changed twice weekly. The concierge desk ran along the far wall, staffed 24 hours. David, the day concierge, looked up as we approached. He'd worked here for 6 years, always remembered everyone's names, asked about my mother when she was traveling. Mr. Harris, Miss Torres, good morning. David, we need to process a checkout, Marcus said. Jennifer is surrendering her access to the building. I'm taking full control of Unit 23B. David's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. I'll need to see documentation, Mr. Harris. Building policy requires proper transfer paperwork for any access changes. Marcus pulled out his phone, brought up an email. The sale documentation. Property transfer was finalized this morning. Jennifer no longer has any claim to the unit. David read the screen carefully, too carefully. He was stalling. This appears to be in order, but I'll need to verify with building management. Miss Torres has been a resident for 11 years, I said quietly. Since I was 17, since she was a child living off her parents. Marcus corrected. That's over now. Process the checkout, David. David looked at me, a question in his eyes. I gave a tiny shake of my head. Not yet. I'll need to make a call, David said. Building policy. Just a moment. He picked up the desk phone, dialed an internal extension, murmured something I couldn't hear, listened, then his eyebrows rose slightly. I see. Yes, she's here now. I'll let her know. He hung up, turned back to us. Miss Torres, Mr. Henderson would like to see you in his office. 3rd floor. Marcus frowned. Who's Henderson? Building manager, I said. Whatever he needs can wait. We're in the middle of it's regarding the property transfer, David said, his voice carefully neutral. He was quite insistent. Marcus's jaw tightened. Fine, let's go. I want this settled now. We took the elevator to the 3rd floor. The management offices were understated. Thick carpet, wood paneling, the kind of quiet wealth that didn't need to advertise itself. Henderson's secretary, Margaret, smiled as we entered. Miss Torres, Mr. Henderson is expecting you. Mr. Harris, if you could wait here please. I'm coming in, Marcus said. This concerns my property. Mr. Henderson specifically requested to speak with Miss Torres first. I'm sure it won't take long. Marcus looked ready to argue, but Margaret had already opened the inner door for me. James Henderson was in his 60s, impeccably dressed, with the calm demeanor of someone who'd handled every possible crisis. He stood as I entered. Jennifer, please sit. Would you like water, coffee? I'm fine, thank you. He settled back into his chair, folding his hands on the desk. I received an interesting call this morning. From Chicago First National, Senior Vice President named Patricia Meredith. Do you know her? We've spoken. She expressed some concerns about the property transfer documentation she'd been reviewing. Apparently there are some discrepancies. Through the door, I could hear Marcus pacing in the outer office. Henderson continued. According to the bank's records, Unit 23B isn't in foreclosure. In fact, the mortgage was paid in full 3 years ago. The property is owned outright by the Torres Family Trust. That's correct, but Mr. Harris has documentation claiming he purchased the unit this morning to satisfy debt. He has paperwork, I agreed. Whether it's legitimate is another question. Henderson's expression didn't change, but I saw the hint of a smile. Miss Meredith mentioned she's on her way here now, with representatives from the Trust Administration Office. She seemed quite concerned about potential fraud. I appreciate her diligence. Jennifer, I have to ask, why didn't you simply tell Mr. Harris the truth? Show him the trust documents. I thought about that, about Marcus's face when he told me his real children needed this space, about my mother signing papers in Italy, without a conversation, about 11 years of being treated like a charity case. I wanted to see how far he'd go, I said quietly. Henderson nodded slowly. Miss Meredith said she'd be here within the hour. She suggested you might want to have your attorney present. Martin should be arriving soon. In the meantime, would you like me to inform Mr. Harris of the situation? Not yet, let's wait for Patricia. We returned to the outer office. Marcus jumped up immediately. Well, is this settled? Mr. Henderson needs to verify some documentation, I said. It shouldn't take long. I have a designer coming. I don't have time for bureaucratic nonsense. Margaret's phone rang. She answered, listened, then looked at Henderson. Sir, there are several people here to see you, from Chicago First National Bank. Send them in, Henderson said. The door opened, and Patricia Meredith entered first. She was 50-something, elegant in a navy suit, carrying a leather briefcase. Behind her came 2 men in expensive suits, and a woman I recognized immediately, Sandra Kim from the Trust Administration Office. James, thank you for accommodating us on short notice, Patricia said, then turned to me. Jennifer, good to see you. Patricia, thank you for coming. Marcus stepped forward. I'm Marcus Harris. I don't understand what's happening here. I purchased this property legally this morning. Patricia's expression was perfectly polite, perfectly cold. Mr. Harris, I'm Patricia Meredith, Senior Vice President at Chicago First National. These are my colleagues, David Chen from our legal department, and Richard Abbott from fraud prevention. You know Sandra Kim? I don't know any of you. What is this about? It's about the property you claim to have purchased this morning, Patricia said. Could you show me your documentation? Marcus pulled out his phone, brought up the emails. Patricia examined them, her expression unchanging. She handed the phone to David Chen, who studied it carefully. Mr. Harris, who did you interact with at the bank? Chen asked. A loan officer named Thompson. Brad Thompson. And he told you the property was in foreclosure? Yes, he said if I settled the outstanding debt immediately, the bank would transfer ownership. How much did you pay? $475,000. Wire transfer this morning. Patricia and Chen exchanged a look. Mr. Harris, we don't have a loan officer named Brad Thompson, Patricia said, and Unit 23B has no outstanding debt. The property was paid off in full on March 15, 2022. The color drained from Marcus's face. That's impossible. I have the emails, the wire confirmation, everything. You have communications from a scammer, Abbott said, stepping forward. A sophisticated one, certainly. But the account you wired money to isn't affiliated with Chicago First National in any capacity. Marcus looked at me, then back at Patricia. But the property transfer documents are fraudulent, Chen said. The signatures are forged, the transfer numbers don't match our system, and most critically, the property was never ours to sell. Then who owns it? Sandra Kim opened her briefcase, pulled out a leather portfolio. The Torres Family Trust owns the property. It has since the trust was established in 2019. Jennifer Torres is the sole beneficiary. Marcus's mouth opened, closed. She doesn't have any money. She doesn't even have a job. The trust was established by Jennifer's late father, Richard Torres. Sandra continued. Current asset value is approximately $4.7 million. Assets include this penthouse, an investment portfolio, and several commercial properties in the greater Chicago area. 4.7 million, Marcus repeated, his voice faint. The trust is structured to provide Jennifer with a modest monthly distribution, while preserving principal, Sandra explained. She receives $45,000 annually for living expenses. The bulk of the assets remain invested for long-term growth. I watched understanding dawn on Marcus's face. All those years of calling me lazy, unmotivated, living off charity, all those comments about getting a real job, contributing to society, being a burden. You let me think, he started. You thought what you wanted to think, I said quietly. I never claimed to be broke. You assumed it. Patricia cleared her throat. Mr. Harris, I need to inform you that we'll be filing a police report regarding the wire fraud. You're a victim here, and we take these schemes very seriously. We'll do everything we can to help you recover your funds. But the property remains solely in Jennifer's name through the trust, Sandra said firmly. Any documentation suggesting otherwise is void. If you've made any changes to the property or removed items, those will need to be reversed immediately. Marcus looked at me, and for the first time, I saw genuine fear in his eyes. The movers, they're loading everything right now. Then I suggest you stop them, Henderson said. We returned to the penthouse in a convoy. Me, Patricia, Sandra, the two lawyers, Henderson and Marcus trailing behind like a condemned man heading to the gallows. The elevator ride was silent, except for Marcus's ragged breathing. When the doors opened on the 23rd floor, we could hear Brittany and Madison laughing in what used to be my bedroom. Tom and his crew were carrying the last of the dining room chairs toward the door. Stop, Marcus shouted. Stop everything. Tom set down the chair carefully. Sir, we're almost done loading. Unload it. All of it. Now, Mr. Harris. We've already spent 3 hours. I don't care. Unload everything and put it back exactly where it was. Brittany emerged from the hallway, annoyed. Dad, what's going on? The bedroom furniture. She stopped when she saw the group of people in suits. Marcus's voice shook. Girls, we need to leave. Now. But you said this was our place, Madison protested. I was wrong. We need to go. Patricia stepped forward, her voice professional but firm. Mr. Harris, I recommend you cooperate fully. Remove any items you or your daughters brought here, ensure the property is returned to its original condition, and vacate immediately. Who are you? Brittany demanded. I'm from the bank that actually owns. Patricia paused, corrected herself. That holds the trust that owns this property. Your father was the victim of fraud. This penthouse was never in foreclosure, and was never for sale. Madison turned to me, her expression shifting from confusion to anger. You knew, this whole time, you just sat there and let him what? I asked. Tell me I wasn't his real family. Call me lazy and useless. Throw my belongings into the hallway. You could have said something. I could have, I agreed, but then I wouldn't have known how far he'd go, how far all of you would go. Marcus pulled out his phone with shaking hands. I need to call your mother. She's in Italy, I reminded him, on vacation, with your daughters, the one she deserves after years of supporting a stepdaughter who couldn't hold down a decent job. His hand froze. Sandra Kim checked her watch. Mr. Harris, you have 1 hour to vacate the premises and restore the property. After that, we'll be forced to involve law enforcement for trespassing. The movers need to unload the truck, Tom said, looking at Marcus. That's another 3 hours minimum, plus our time already spent. We'll need payment for the full day, plus the additional labor. How much? $4,000. Marcus closed his eyes. Fine, just fix it. Put everything back. I watched from the kitchen while Tom's crew reversed 3 hours of work. The Chihuly sculpture returned to its place in the entryway. The Danish dining table reassembled. The Italian sofa positioned perfectly in the living room. Brittany and Madison had disappeared into the guest bedroom, their excited chatter replaced by tense whispers. Marcus stood by the windows, making quiet phone calls I couldn't hear. Patricia approached me, her voice low. Jennifer, I meant what I said. We take fraud very seriously. I've already reported this to our security team in the FBI's Cybercrimes Division. We'll do everything possible to help Mr. Harris recover his funds. I appreciate that. Though I have to say, watching him squirm was quite satisfying. She smiled slightly. Between you and me, Sandra joined us, setting her briefcase on the counter. I've drafted a formal trespass notice. If Mr. Harris or his daughters attempt to access the property again without your explicit permission, they'll be in violation. I recommend changing the locks and updating building security immediately. I will. Also, we should discuss the trust distributions. You've been taking the minimum annual amount, but given recent events, you might want to reconsider. The trust is structured to provide for your needs. You don't have to live on $45,000 a year. I know, I just never needed more. Patricia glanced at Marcus, still on his phone by the window. Something tells me that's about to change. Your mother will likely have questions when she learns what happened. Let her ask them. At 3:15, Tom approached Marcus. Sir, we're finished. Everything's back in place. But I need to inform you, when we were unloading, we noticed some items were damaged during transport. The glass coffee table has a crack, and one of the dining chairs has a loose joint. Marcus's face was gray. Send me the bill for repairs. I'll need payment for today's services first. Marcus pulled out his wallet, handed over a credit card. Tom ran it through a mobile reader, then frowned. It's declining, sir. Try again. Tom did. Same result. Do you have another card? Marcus tried 2 more cards. Both declined. The $475,000 he'd wired to a scammer this morning had apparently maxed out his available credit trying to cover it. I'll need to call the bank, Marcus said, his voice barely audible. We accept cash, Tom said patiently. In the end, Brittany paid with her credit card, her face flushed with humiliation. By 4 o'clock, the penthouse was empty except for me, Henderson, and Sandra. The movers were gone. Marcus and his daughters were gone. Patricia and the lawyers had returned to the bank with promises to stay in touch. Henderson stood in the entryway, looking around. 11 years you've lived here, since my father died. He bought it the year before, planned to retire here. Cancer got him first. And your mother remarried quickly. 14 months after the funeral, Marcus worked at Dad's company. They met at the memorial service. Henderson nodded slowly. The trust was wise, protected you. My father knew what he was doing. After Henderson left, I walked through the penthouse slowly. Every room held memories, not just of my father, but of the life I'd built here. The mornings watching sunrise over the lake, the evenings reading in the window seat, the quiet peaceful solitude of a space that was mine. I pulled out my phone, finally making the call I'd been putting off. My mother answered on the 3rd ring. Jennifer, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I just thought you should know. Marcus tried to sell the penthouse this morning. Thought it was in foreclosure. Silence. Then, that's impossible. I told him about the trust. When we got engaged, I explained that your father had protected your inheritance, that the penthouse was yours. He claimed he didn't know. More silence. He said he was going to help you manage it, that someone your age shouldn't have that responsibility. I thought, she trailed off. You thought he'd help me. Instead, he saw an opportunity. Jennifer, I'm so sorry. I didn't know He wired $475,000 to a scammer this morning. Thought he was buying the place out of foreclosure. Brought Brittany and Madison here to claim it. Called them his real family. I heard her sharp intake of breath. Mom, I need to know something. Did you sign papers for him? Related to the property. He said there were tax documents. That the trust needed updating for tax purposes. I signed them remotely yesterday. Her voice broke. Oh God, what did I do? You trusted your husband. That's not a crime. But Jennifer, your inheritance is safe. The trust is ironclad. Dad made sure of that. She was crying now. Soft sobs that made my chest tight. I'll come home. End the trip early. We need to figure this out. No, finish your vacation. We'll talk when you get back. But Marcus is going to have a lot of explaining to do. To you, to his credit card companies, to the FBI. But that's between you and him. After we hung up, I stood at the windows as the sun began to set. The lake turned golden, then orange, then deep purple as darkness crept in. My phone buzzed. A text from Sandra. Locks changed. New fobs ready tomorrow. Building security has been updated with trespass notice. Call if you need anything. Another text, this time from Patricia. FBI case number assigned. We'll keep you updated on the fraud investigation. Coffee next week. I replied to both with thanks, then set the phone down. The penthouse was quiet again, mine again. It had never stopped being mine, but now everyone knew it. I thought about Marcus's face when Sandra revealed the $4.7 million trust, the shock, the fear, the sudden recalculation of every assumption he'd made about me. For 11 years, I'd let them think what they wanted. Let Marcus feel superior. Let my mother assuage her guilt by supporting me. Let Brittany and Madison treat me like the poor relation. Because the truth was simpler than they could understand. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their money. I didn't need anything from them at all. My father had made sure of that. I made tea in the kitchen, using the Japanese kettle my father had brought back from a business trip to Tokyo. Carried it to the window seat. Wrapped myself in the throw blanket I'd had since college. Outside, the city lights sparkled like stars. 23 floors below, people hurried home from work, headed to dinner, lived their complicated lives. And up here, in the quiet of the penthouse that had always been mine, I sipped my tea and watched the night settle over the lake. Tomorrow I'd deal with the lawyers and the bank statements and the fraud investigation. Tomorrow I'd have difficult conversations with my mother about trust and marriage and money. But tonight, I just sat in the peace of knowing that sometimes, the best revenge is simply letting people reveal exactly who they are. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from David, the concierge. "Welcome home, Miss Torres, where you belong." I smiled, sent back a simple thank you, and settled deeper into the window seat. The sailboat from this morning was long gone, but others would come tomorrow. They always did. The lake was constant, reliable, exactly what it appeared to be, unlike people, unlike family, unlike everything else that could be taken away. But this penthouse, this view, this quiet sanctuary, was mine, had always been mine, and now everyone knew it. The boxes appeared while I was at the grocery store. I'd only been gone 90 minutes, just a quick trip to Whole Foods for the week's essentials. When I returned to the penthouse at 2:30 on a Tuesday afternoon, I found the front door propped open, and my sister Victoria directing two men in gray uniforms as they packed my bedroom. "Careful with that lamp," she said, not looking at me. "It's vintage Tiffany, worth more than most people make in a month." I set my grocery bags on the kitchen counter, watching the movers wrap my belongings in paper and tape. My clothes were already folded into boxes. My books were being pulled from the shelves in the study. "Victoria, what's happening?" She turned, and her smile was the same one she'd perfected at age 12, when she convinced our parents I'd stolen her necklace. "Cold, victorious. I'm reclaiming what's always been mine, Natalie. This penthouse belongs to me. It always has." I stood very still, my hand resting on the grocery bag containing organic strawberries and Greek yogurt. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the Manhattan skyline stretched endlessly, the afternoon sun turning the glass towers into pillars of gold. "This is my home," I said quietly. "No, it's our family's home. And since I'm the only one who actually contributed to this family, who built a career, who made something of myself, it's mine now." She gestured to the movers. "Keep going. I want the bedroom completely empty by 4. One of the movers, a younger man with kind eyes, paused. "Ma'am, are you sure about this? Usually we need both parties present." "I'm sure," Victoria snapped. "I have all the documentation. This is my property. She's been squatting here for years." The mover looked at me, a question in his expression. I shook my head slightly. "Not yet. Where do you expect me to go?" I asked Victoria. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through something. "That's not my problem anymore. You've had 28 years to figure your life out. Maybe this will finally motivate you to get a real job instead of pretending to be an artist." The words should have stung. They were designed to sting, but I'd heard variations of them, my entire life, from Victoria, from our mother before she died, from extended family at every gathering. Natalie the dreamer, Natalie the artist, Natalie, who never quite figured out how the real world worked. "I see," I said. Victoria's eyes narrowed. She'd been expecting a fight, tears, begging. My calm seemed to unsettle her. "Security is coming at 5, to ensure you leave the building," she continued. "I've already spoken to building management. They're aware of the situation." "You spoke to Gregory, the building manager?" "Yes, very understanding once I explained the circumstances." She moved to the window, running her hand along the sill like she was claiming territory. "I'm having the whole place redone. This shabby chic thing you've got going, it's depressing. I'm thinking modern minimalist, clean lines, white and chrome." I watched her examine my living room with critical eyes, the overstuffed reading chair by the window where I spent my mornings, the gallery wall of paintings, some mine, some from artist friends, each one a memory. The Turkish rug my father had brought back from a business trip when I was 16. When did you decide this? I asked. Does it matter? I've been planning it for months, ever since I found the original trust documents in Dad's office. She pulled a folder from her designer bag, waving it triumphantly. Everything's in here, clear as day. The penthouse was purchased as a family asset, and since you've contributed nothing to the family finances, you have no claim to it. The movers had finished with my bedroom, and were starting on the bathroom. I could hear them discussing how to pack my toiletries, my medications, the small things that made up a daily life. I'm having people over Friday, Victoria continued. A dinner party. Very exclusive. I need this place perfect by then. That's 3 days away, which is why we're starting now. She checked her watch, a Cartier I recognized from the Park Avenue boutique. I have a meeting at 4:30. The movers know what to do. Just stay out of their way. She walked toward the door, then paused. Oh, and Natalie, don't make this difficult. I'd hate to have to call the police, but I will if necessary. After she left, I unpacked my groceries slowly, methodically, put the yogurt in the refrigerator, washed the strawberries, made myself a cup of tea, using the electric kettle I'd had since college. The movers worked around me, professional and efficient. They'd clearly done this before. Family disputes, evictions, the messy intersection of relationships and real estate. By 4 o'clock, most of my belongings were packed. Boxes lined the hallway, labeled in Victoria's sharp handwriting: bedroom, donate, books, storage, kitchen items, discard. I sat in my reading chair, the one piece of furniture the movers hadn't touched yet, and sipped my tea. My phone buzzed. A text from Victoria: decorator arriving at 5. Make sure movers are gone by then. Another text, this one from a number I didn't recognize. Miss Hartwell, this is Gregory Thornton, building manager. Your sister requested I meet with you regarding the property situation. I'll be up at 5:15. Please have your keys ready for surrender. I replied to Gregory. Of course. See you then. The movers finished at 4:45. The apartment looked strange, half empty, like a stage set being struck after the final performance. They'd left the furniture, but taken everything personal: photographs, books, the small pottery pieces I'd collected over years of flea market browsing. Ma'am, where should we deliver these? The kind-eyed mover asked. I gave him the address of a storage facility in Queens. He nodded, made a note on his tablet. For what it's worth, he said quietly, I'm sorry, this doesn't seem right. Thank you. After they left, I walked through the penthouse slowly. 3,000 square feet of prime Manhattan real estate, 26 floors above the city. My father had purchased it in 2009, during the financial crisis, when prices had cratered and opportunities bloomed for those with ready cash. I was 14 when we moved in. Victoria was 19, already away at Princeton, studying economics and networking with the children of senators and CEOs. The penthouse had been my sanctuary through high school, through college, through the years after my father's death, when everything else fell apart. The morning light through these windows, the sound of the city muted by expensive glass, the sense of being above it all, literally and figuratively. At 5 o'clock exactly, the decorator arrived. She was young, probably 30, dressed in all black with architectural glasses, and a leather portfolio. She introduced herself as Sienna, from an exclusive design firm in Chelsea. Victoria said I should start with spatial assessments, she explained, walking through the rooms with a measuring laser. She wants everything gutted. New flooring, new walls where possible, complete lighting overhaul. She's very decisive, I said. She knows what she wants. That makes my job easier. Sienna paused in the living room, studying my gallery wall. These will all come down obviously. Victoria wants a single statement piece, probably a Rothko or a Koons. I thought about the paintings she was dismissing. The watercolor from my college roommate, now showing in galleries across Europe. The oil painting I'd done of the view from this very window, capturing a thunderstorm rolling across the Hudson. Obviously, I agreed. Sienna glanced at me, a flicker of something in her expression. Curiosity, maybe, or pity. Are you family? She asked. Sister. Oh, she made a note on her tablet. Victoria mentioned you might still be here. She said you'd be leaving soon. Very soon. At 5:15, Gregory Thornton arrived. I'd known Gregory for 7 years, since he took over as building manager. He was in his 50s, impeccably professional, the kind of man who remembered everyone's names and handled problems before they became crises. He stood in the doorway now, looking uncomfortable in a way I'd never seen before. Miss Hartwell, I apologize for the circumstances. Come in, Gregory. Would you like tea? He blinked. I know, thank you. I'm here in an official capacity. I understand. Sienna excused herself, retreating to the far bedroom to continue her measurements. Gregory and I stood in the living room, the afternoon sun painting long shadows across the floor. Your sister presented documentation this morning, Gregory began. She claims the property belongs to her through family trust arrangements. She's requested that I facilitate your departure from the building. I see. Miss Hartwell, I have to ask, do you have any documentation establishing your right to occupy this unit? A lease, a deed, anything that would contradict her claim? I walked to my study, one of the few rooms the movers hadn't completely emptied, and retrieved a folder from the desk drawer. It was thin, just a few pages, but I'd had it prepared 3 years ago, when I first sensed Victoria's intentions. I handed it to Gregory. He opened it slowly, read the first page, then the second. His expression shifted from professional courtesy to genuine surprise. This is Miss Hartwell. This shows you as the sole owner of this property. Correct. The deed is in your name, has been since 2016, when the trust dissolved and assets were distributed. Yes. He looked up from the papers, his professional composure cracking. Then why did you let your sister? Why didn't you just show her this? I wanted to see how far she'd go. Gregory closed the folder carefully. She's hired movers, brought in a decorator, scheduled a security escort to remove you, filed paperwork with our office claiming ownership. I know. Miss Hartwell, I need to make a phone call. Would you excuse me? He stepped into the hallway. I could hear his voice, low and urgent, speaking to someone, probably building legal counsel. Sienna emerged from the bedroom. I'm getting some weird measurements. Is this wall load-bearing? I need to know if Victoria can. She stopped as Gregory re-entered, his phone still in his hand. Miss Hartwell, our building attorney is reviewing the documents now, but based on what I'm seeing, you are the legal owner of this property. Your sister has no claim whatsoever. Yes, she's committed trespassing, potentially theft if she's removed any of your belongings, and fraud in filing false ownership claims with our management office. I suppose she has. Gregory ran a hand over his face. I need to call her. Stop this before it goes any further. Actually, I said, I'd prefer if you didn't. Not yet. He stared at me. Miss Hartwell, she's planning to move in. She's hired contractors. She's scheduled a dinner party for Friday. Yes, I know. Sienna had gone very still, her tablet forgotten in her hands. I don't understand, Gregory said. My sister has spent her entire life believing she was smarter than me, more successful, more deserving. She built her identity on being the capable one, the achiever, while I was just the flaky artist who lived on family money. I walked to the window, looking out over the city. I'd like her to have her moment, her dinner party, her triumph, and then you can make your phone call. Gregory was quiet for a long moment. Miss Hartwell, I have an obligation to protect the building's interests. If your sister is planning renovations under false pretenses, nothing will be damaged. I'll make sure of it. I turned back to him, but I need her to believe just for a few more days that she's won. Sienna cleared her throat. I should probably go. Actually, I said, I'd like you to continue working with Victoria. Prepare your designs, make your recommendations. Just don't order any materials yet, and definitely don't start demolition. She looked between me and Gregory, processing. This is the weirdest client situation I've ever had. I'll compensate you for your time, I said. Whatever Victoria agreed to pay, I'll double it. Just play along. Sienna considered this. She wants me to present designs Thursday morning, before the dinner party Friday. Perfect. Do the presentation. Make it spectacular. Let her feel like it's really happening. After they left, I called the storage facility and arranged to have my boxes held but not processed. Then I called the moving company and confirmed they had insurance for any items damaged during transport. Everything was in motion. Victoria's grand plan, my quiet counterplan, all of it building toward Friday. Wednesday morning, Victoria arrived at 8 o'clock with a contractor. She'd had a key made, probably charmed it out of Gregory with her false ownership documents. They walked through the penthouse discussing load-bearing walls, electrical upgrades, the possibility of adding a wine cellar. I sat in my reading chair, sketching in my pad, apparently oblivious. Natalie, you're still here, Victoria frowned. I thought security escorted you out yesterday. Gregory said I could stay until Friday, something about processing paperwork. Her frown deepened, but she clearly didn't want to show uncertainty in front of the contractor. Fine. But Friday morning, you're gone. No extensions. The contractor, a weathered man named Bill, examined the kitchen. This whole thing needs to be gutted. Appliances are what, 10 years old? 12, I said. Wolf range, sub-zero refrigerator. They were top of the line when installed. Still outdated, Victoria said dismissively. I want all new. Mila, Gagano. The best. Bill made notes, occasionally glancing at me with confusion. I just smiled and returned to my sketching. Thursday morning brought Sienna's design presentation. Victoria had invited 2 friends, women I vaguely remembered from her college years, both dressed in designer labels and dripping condescension. They settled on the sofa while Sienna set up her laptop and projector. Before we begin, Victoria announced, I want to acknowledge what this space represents. It's not just a penthouse, it's a reclamation of family legacy. My father purchased this property, and through strategic legal action, I've returned it to where it belongs. Her friends murmured approval. And it only took evicting your deadbeat sister, one of them, Cassandra, I thought, added with a laugh. Exactly. Victoria gestured to me, still in my reading chair by the window. Natalie, you don't need to be here for this. I'm just finishing a sketch. I'll be quiet. Sienna began her presentation. She'd created a stunning vision, all clean lines and marble surfaces, floating shelves and statement lighting. The penthouse transformed from a lived-in home to a showpiece. This is perfect, Victoria breathed, scrolling through the renderings. When can you start? Normally we'd need permits, which takes 6 to 8 weeks, but for the cosmetic work, paint, furniture, lighting, we could start Monday. Do it, whatever it costs. Cassandra leaned forward. Victoria, this dinner party tomorrow night, you're really going through with it. While she's still here, she'll be gone by then. I've made sure of it. Victoria turned to me. Won't you, Natalie? I'll be out of your way, I said truthfully. After the presentation, Victoria's friends left, but she lingered, walking through the penthouse with an appraising eye. You know what the saddest part is, she said, standing at the window where I'd spent countless mornings. You had every advantage. Dad bought you this place, left you enough money to live on, and you did nothing with it. No career, no ambition, just sketching and pretending to be an artist. You're right, I said. I haven't built what you've built. She looked surprised by my agreement. At least you can finally admit it. Your real estate portfolio is impressive. The partnership at Morrison and Associates, the board positions, earned every bit of it. I don't doubt it. She studied me for a long moment. Why aren't you fighting this? The old Natalie would have called Dad's lawyers, thrown a tantrum, made it difficult. Maybe I'm tired of fighting. Or maybe you finally realize you can't win. She collected her bag, checked her phone. I have meetings all day tomorrow. The caterer arrives at 4, guests at 7. Make sure you're gone before then. I will be. After she left, I stood at the window for a long time, watching the city move below. Taxis weaving through traffic, people hurrying to appointments, lives intersecting and diverging in the complicated dance of 8 million souls trying to coexist. My phone rang. Gregory, Miss Hartwell, I need to inform you. Your sister has scheduled contractors to begin work Monday morning. They'll need building access, permits, the whole process. I can't delay much longer without revealing the situation. You won't need to delay. After tomorrow night, everything will be clear. I hope you know what you're doing. So do I. Friday arrived bright and clear. One of those perfect October days when New York feels like the center of the universe. The caterer arrived at 3:30, bringing cases of champagne and trays of hors d'oeuvres. Victoria supervised everything, transformed from corporate executive to hostess, directing placement of flowers and arrangement of furniture. She'd brought in rental pieces, a sleek dining table, modern chairs, serving stations that looked like art installations. The penthouse barely resembled the space I'd lived in for 14 years. This is just temporary, she told the caterer. We're doing a complete renovation, but I wanted people to see the potential. At 5 o'clock, I emerged from my bedroom, the one room Victoria had left mostly untouched, wearing a simple black dress. Victoria looked up, irritated. Natalie, what are you doing? I thought I'd say goodbye properly, to the space. You need to leave, now, before guests arrive. I will. I just want one last look. I walked through the living room, the kitchen, the study, ran my hand along the windowsill. where morning light had touched my face for so many years. Stood in the spot where my father used to read the newspaper, coffee in hand, completely content. Victoria followed me, her agitation growing. Natalie, please, this is important. These are influential people. I can't have you here looking like this. Like what? Like the charity case you are. The doorbell rang. First guest arriving early. Victoria's eyes went wide. You have to hide. The bedroom. Just stay in there until everyone leaves. Actually, I said, I think I'll stay. Natalie. The doorbell rang. Again. Victoria, trapped between her demanding guest and her inconvenient sister, chose the guest. I watched her open the door, transform into gracious hostess, welcome a couple I didn't recognize. They swept in with exclamations about the view, the space, the glamour of it all. More guests arrived. 20, then 30. The penthouse filled with laughter and conversation, champagne glasses catching the evening light. I stood by the window, watching, invisible to most, just another piece of furniture Victoria hadn't gotten around to removing. At 7:30, Gregory Thornton entered. He wasn't dressed as a guest, still in his building manager suit, but he moved through the crowd with purpose, heading straight for Victoria. I couldn't hear their conversation over the party noise, but I saw Victoria's expression change, confusion, then anger, then something that might have been fear. Gregory gestured toward me. Victoria's head snapped around, her eyes finding mine across the crowded room. She excused herself from her guests, crossed to me in 6 sharp strides. What did you do? Her voice was low, dangerous. Nothing. I've just been standing here. Gregory says there's a problem with the ownership documents, that you've made some kind of claim. Not a claim. I simply showed him the deed. The deed is in the family trust. I have the trust documents. The trust dissolved in 2016. Assets were distributed according to Dad's will. This penthouse came to me. Victoria's face went white. That's impossible. Dad would never. He left you the commercial properties, the stock portfolio, the cash assets. He knew you'd build on them, grow them, turn them into something bigger. I kept my voice gentle. He left me this place because he knew I'd need it, that I'd live differently than you. You're lying. I pulled out my phone, opened the Photos app, showed her the deed, her name nowhere on it, just mine, legal, recorded, indisputable. Your trust documents are real, I said, but they're from before the dissolution. They don't reflect the final distribution. Victoria grabbed my phone, scrolling through the images. Her hands were shaking. All of this, the movers, the decorator, the contractors. You arranged based on outdated information, but I filed papers with the building. They accepted my claim, because I let them, because I wanted to see if you'd actually go through with it. She looked around at her party. 30 guests, drinking champagne, eating catered food, admiring a view she didn't own. Her design presentation, her renovation plans, her triumph, all of it built on nothing. Why? She whispered. Why would you let me humiliate myself like this? Because for 28 years, you've believed I was less than you, that I contributed nothing, that I deserved nothing. I took my phone back from her trembling hands. I wanted you to feel what it's like, just for a few days, to have everything then discover it was never yours at all. Gregory approached, his expression apologetic. Miss Hartwell, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we need to address this situation. Your sister's guests are my guests now, I said, in my home. Victoria made a small sound, almost a sob. I'll need you to return anything you've removed, I continued. The movers can bring back my belongings tomorrow, and I'd appreciate if you'd cancel the contractors. Victoria. One of her friends appeared, Cassandra, holding a champagne glass. Is everything okay? You look pale. Victoria straightened, and I watched her pull herself together with visible effort, the same way she'd done after losing the student body election junior year, after her first major case fell apart at Morrison and Associates. Brick by brick, rebuilding her composure. I need to make an announcement, she said. She walked to the center of the room, raised her voice above the chatter. Everyone, can I have your attention please? The crowd quieted, turned toward her expectantly. I need to apologize. There's been a terrible mistake. Her voice was steady, professional. This penthouse doesn't belong to me. It belongs to my sister Natalie. I was operating under incorrect information about our family trust. Everything I told you, the renovation, the ownership was wrong. Silence spread through the room like spilled wine. I'm very sorry for any confusion. Please, enjoy the rest of the evening. The food and champagne are paid for, but this is Natalie's home, not mine. She set down her glass, collected her bag, and walked to the door, paused with her hand on the handle. For what it's worth, she said, looking back at me, Dad was right. You did need this place more than I did. I just couldn't see it. Then she left, and the door closed quietly behind her. The party dissolved quickly after that, guests making excuses, expressing confusion, filtering out until only Gregory and I remained, surrounded by half-empty champagne glasses and abandoned hors d'oeuvres. Well, Gregory said, that was certainly memorable. I should clean up. Leave it. I'll send the cleaning service tomorrow. He moved toward the door, then stopped. Miss Hartwell, I have to ask, was it worth it? Letting her go that far. I thought about Victoria's face when she saw the deed. The collapse of certainty, the shock of being wrong about something so fundamental. I don't know yet, I said honestly. Ask me in a year. After he left, I walked through the penthouse, turning off lights, collecting champagne glasses. The rental furniture looked strange in my space, too modern, too cold. But tomorrow I'd have it removed. Tomorrow my boxes would come back from storage. Tomorrow I'd restore the paintings to the walls, the books to the shelves, the small pottery pieces to their familiar places. Tomorrow this would be home again. I stood at the window, watching the city lights sparkle below. My phone buzzed, a text from Victoria. The movers will return your things Saturday. I'm sorry for everything. I typed back, thank you, then added, Dad left you those properties because he knew you'd triple their value. He was right about both of us. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, maybe we could have coffee sometime. Talk about the trust, about Dad, about things that matter. I'd like that. I set my phone down and made tea in my own kitchen, using my own kettle, in my own home. Outside, the city continued its endless rhythm. But up here, 26 floors above it all, everything was exactly as it should be. My father had known. Even then, buying this place, structuring the trust, making his final arrangements, he'd understood that Victoria needed conquests, and I needed sanctuary. He'd given us both exactly what we needed, and now, finally we both knew it.